Hey friends, Jewel back with you. And I decided to cut my own bangs again. So yeah, I did it again. So let's talk about Moon in conjunct to Mars in the natal chart. So the Moon is our needs and our habitual emotional patterns, and Mars is how we get what we want, our aggressive energy, and often our anger and our forward movement. So people with this aspect often take offense to things very easily. This is the touchiest of all the aspects in astrology. Mars represents the ego, and it's helpful if you can envision Aries, the god, during this description. That can give you a good visual that can help connect the dots about this particular aspect. So Aries, the god of war, was very much about taking immediate action on his impulses and feelings. Mars is concerned with the moment-to-moment contact that the ego has with the environment and how we are perceived by others. Also rules the first house there, the face. It's very much mixing with the emotions and moods and the habitual emotional patterns, the safety and the security needs of the moon when we have this particular in conjunction. So extreme reactivity is often the result of this particular mix. The impulsiveness of the ways that people with this aspect react to their feelings is very much the basis of many altercations or misunderstandings or offenses, sometimes even fights. There's no objectivity when it comes to how they interpret their feelings. The readiness of Mars really does not allow for the natural tendency to weigh reactions or think responses through before they're really poured out onto others or the environment, sometimes even objects. Mars is not an energy that takes being wrong well. Mars is about winning, about being first, coming out on top, moving forward with things. So when this is coupled with the moon, the feelings not only come in a rush, they come ready to fight and be right. So the predisposition of someone with this particular aspect is to react without thinking, and then to often fight for that incorrect response to be right. So it's helpful if you can catch a show called Curb Your Enthusiasm. It is a show where the writer and the lead actor has this particular aspect. And basically the entire series is about the mayhem he goes around stirring up through his impulsive or selfish emotional reactions, and how a lot of people have a problem with him as a result. It is an absolutely hilarious show and will point out very well how this aspect of work works, how it functions socially, and the kind of fallout that it can often create. So people with this in conjunction need to learn to keep a lid on it. Don't react at all sometimes. Sometimes it's good to sit on your words. The strength of Mars needs to be brought under conscious control. You must deliberately address how Mars runs away with your moon. Slowing down the element of reactivity is the key to a healthy domestic relationship and healthy friendships and not being seen as a psycho by your children, as we can often be seen when we have an aspect like this. We're hyper emotional with this particular inconjunction, and it doesn't generally lead to an easy life before we work it out, because it can be worked out. That's what all of our hard aspects are there for us to have something to work on. It's to give us something to do. So we can have a wonderfully peaceful, tranquil domestic life if we learn to stop needing to be immediately right in any given situation. So, and it's often, coming from a place of people with this aspect being criticized very young or made to feel inept or small as children, and consequently they are not about to be pushed around again or let you see them that way, and they're not really willing to allow anyone to get away with anything. So there's a lot of compensation that is occurring when we have this particular inconjunction. They feel very insecure as a result, now as adults, as a result of the fallout from their own behavior. But they also can't tolerate not reacting suddenly, and often without the correct information, because that also makes them insecure. So they are very much their own worst enemy when it comes to disrupting their own emotional or domestic life. Very rarely do those things come from the outside. They're insecure until they react, often without all the facts, and then insecure because of how they reacted. So does that make sense? So this particular aspect also causes a potential for the people who have it to be emotionally manipulated due to their lack of emotional objectivity. So I'll explain what that means. So if you get them riled up enough, if you stimulate their Mars enough, then they can follow you off a cliff. Posses in the Old West movies are made up of people with this particular aspect. You fire them up, you give them a gun, and you watch them go do your dirty work. That's the real danger with this particular inconjunction, that you could be roped into some activities that have an element of turning you against someone or targeting someone. That act really plays into some of the deeper fears or weaknesses with someone with this particular aspect. That propensity to target and obliterate an enemy before we realize if that's the real target. So angry feelings can often also accompany this particular inconjunction as well. We're dealing with an aggression that is just under the surface. And that's one of the reasons that the reactivity is such a problem. It's that inner tension that has to go somewhere. So very often as children, people with this aspect are quite unmanageable. And that's what they need to reclaim again, but in a balanced way. Being okay with the need for Mars to express as well as the moon is really the key here. It's like we've got two horses and they're pulling a buggy, and one of them is a lot faster and stronger than the other one. So we've got to strengthen that one muscle to pull that one back so we have an even team here that we're driving. So that oscillation between passive and aggressive can be solved by reining in, slowing down Mars, and remembering and urging the moon forward. So it's like we have one Aries horse and we have one Cancer horse. And we want to urge the Cancer horse and we want to pull back the Aries horse so they are evenly sharing the load. The stability comes through not reacting in a knee-jerk fashion. Because as soon as you let that Aries horse go, what's it going to do? It's going to pull forward. We're going to have a crash. It's not going to be able to, it's not going to work. The buggy's going to go off the road. So you must learn to suss out more information before you go embarrassing yourself again. We have to learn what, to keep those horses in line and then to get a good look at what's in front of us. Don't involve yourself with other people unless you have all the facts or are in a position to be an equal as well. A lot of the time, people with this aspect, they have an imbalance with the give and the take. Again, the passive and the aggressive, the Mars horse and the Cancer horse. They can take too much sometimes and give too much other times. So the imbalance is Mars is taking and the moon is giving. So finding oneself often bled dry or exhausted in a relationship, something that's had a lot of drama in it as well, can be really common when we have this aspect. And also that's the experience of the partner that's involved with us as well, that they can feel very exhausted as a result of the interaction. So the balance, the fixing of this particular aspect, again, it all begins with controlling the Aries horse, controlling Mars, so that our needs can be taken care of. The Aries horses just run over the Cancer horse. We don't want Mars to be able to come in and destroy the intimacy or the trust that the moon really craves, because that teaches us to not trust ourselves. So slowing down that impulse to respond equals the creation of the intimacy that you're really looking to have in your life. So I hope that was helpful. And if it was, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com, Facebook and Instagram at Truth and Aspect Astrology, and other social media. I do private consultation. I'm mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. And please find me over on Patreon and support me over there so I can spend more time with you over here. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.